The big news today is that the Japanese Defense Ministry has announced that the Americans have agreed to sell Japan several hundred Tomahawk cruise missiles. This is a really big deal because the Japanese are no slouches when it comes to national defense. They do have the world's second largest blue water navy, and I have no doubt that in a knockdown, drag-out fight against the Chinese Navy that they would do just fine on the high seas. They don't necessarily think that the theater for a future conflict with China is going to be on the high seas. China is a continental power, and Japan is part of what they call the first island chain, which separates the Chinese littoral from the rest of the world. And if there was a conflict, all of the Japanese home islands are in range of any number of Chinese weapon systems, and regardless of whether the Americans are involved or not, Chinese cities are less vulnerable than Japanese ones. The Japanese topography is a lot more rugged, and so you get a city on a little footprint of land surrounded by mountains, and then you have to get over those mountains to get to the next city. So all of Japan's cities do double duty as energy centers and military centers and population centers. So in any sort of conflict scenario, the damage to the Japanese system would be extreme unless they have some way of preventing that attack from happening in the first place, and that's where the Tomahawks come in. Is you get a weapons system with a range of 1,000 miles with the basic version, with a 1,000-pound warhead. And the missiles tend to fly just a few dozen of feet above the ground, making them very difficult to detect, much less to intercept. So we're not talking here about these 20 grand a pop Iranian drones that only fly 100 miles an hour and only carry a warhead that's 50 pounds or less, and so they have to throw dozens of them at any target to do any damage. No. These are things that use GPS location that can hit within a few feet of what they're aiming for and just blow it to smithereens. Japan is going to be the third country in the world to have them, and that's probably the biggest takeaway here, is that the United States has always had kind of a friends and family plan that it sells military gear to, but it has always reserved the very top stuff for itself and the Brits. In this calendar year, we have already seen the first two exceptions to that policy being made. The United States is sending air-launched cruise missiles and nuclear submarines, nuclear-powered submarines that is, to the Australians, and now we're giving Tomahawks to the Japanese, giving both of these countries the ability to independently destroy China's economic links to the wider world without any additional help from the United States. And this sudden proliferation of countries that can now bring China to their knees independently, this is arguably the biggest strategic development of the year, even more so than the Ukraine war, because it takes what has become the world's second largest economy and puts it completely at the mercy of the domestic politics of a third party, and now a fourth party.